You're listening to the Health Powered Productivity Podcast by Rader Co. I'm Marcey Rader, keynote speaker, consultant, and your host on high performance. In each bite-sized episode, I'll discuss topics like relentless prioritization, time and attention guardrails that stick, meeting makeovers, remote work, and sustainable habits you'll actually keep. Share this with your team or use it as pre-work before your next meeting. Do you wake up, roll over, and grab your phone, and then check your work email? Because that's sleeping with your company. You're bringing your boss and coworkers into bed with you. Ew, yuck. I talk about that more in episode 84 on why you should not sleep with your company. But if your first swipe is social media, you might be doom scrolling. It's kind of hard not to. And that steady drip of bad news and fuel for comparison isn't how your brain wants to start the day. And frequent doom scrolling is linked to higher anxiety and worse mood. And that's what you're starting with. And then the news. A study with Harvard Business Review found that watching just 3 minutes, just 3, of negative news in the morning made people 27% more likely to report having a bad day 6 to 8 hours later. That blows my mind. And that is a very tiny window with a big hangover. And I listen to 2 news podcasts a day. One is The Daily, which is about 7 minutes. And one is, the Headlines, which is about 7 to 10 minutes. And then The Daily, which is between 20 and 30 minutes. And I used to always listen to it while I was making breakfast. And after I read that study, I actually listen now during lunchtime or after work. So here's the guardrail that I want you to think about. And that is 3 before screens. Your brain loves small sets, it loves odd numbers, and working memory can comfortably hold about 3 to 5 things at a time. So 3 is sticky and doable. And my challenge to you is to find 3 things that you do for yourself that will set you up for success the rest of the day before you go to your screen. So why not email first? Because your inbox is another person's agenda. And research agrees with me. If you check email less often, it will reduce daily stress. And one study in Science Direct showed when people were cut off from work email, stress dropped and focus improved. This is all in your control. You're playing defense if you wake up and go straight to your email. You are giving your day away before you've done anything to yourself or for yourself. So here are some ideas of 3 things for you before you touch a screen. And they are around health, mood, and presence. And some of them will affect all 3. And here are some easy options that can really punch above their weight as far as return on investment. So one thing you could do is move for 5 minutes. I am not even talking about a high-intensity workout. There isn't even a sports bra required here. You can stretch, you can foam roll, you can do a set of sun salutations. Just short bouts of exercise can improve mood and mental performance. And so 5 to 15 minutes, that's all you would need. And if you like foam rolling, I call it the fountain of youth. And because it can boost range of motion, it can ease soreness if you use it consistently. So the first time you foam roll, it might feel like a torture device and you're cursing me under your breath. But the more you do it, the less soreness you'll have. And if you are sore when you do it, it's because you need to do it more. So foam rolling, fountain of youth, 5 minutes. It also helps with the, creaks and cracks when you wake up. Something else you could do is get morning light in your eyes. So go outside if the sun's up. Now, in the winter, or if you're like me and you wake up a lot of times really early before the sun's up, this isn't something that you would do before a screen. But morning light actually advances your circadian clock, and it can improve sleep quality later in the day, and it stabilizes energy later. And Rader Co. marketing specialist, Lisa, she does this in the morning. She makes sure she gets out and gets some morning light. You could also journal or write. And I use our Powered Path playbook. It's part of our Powered Path Goal Achievement Program. And it has spaces for 3 gratitudes and 1 question of how I'll make today great, or what is going to make, what's going to be great about today. And I did a certification through Yale in the science of well-being, and I am just a big fan of gratitude research. And what it shows is that if you practice it consistently, it can improve well-being and reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. And this was in randomized controlled trials even. So one thing that I make sure when I'm doing gratitude journaling, it's just short and sweet. I don't make it general, like my family, my health, my job, my business. That's very boring. And I don't think it really does anything for your brain. So I get specific, but it can be small things. And it could be that, the avocado was ripe for my lunch today. But I also try to have one centered around my husband every day. So that could be something that you do. Breathing, 2 to 5 minutes of, some kind of focused breath work. And that could be like box breathing, which is an inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Or you can do an exhale heavy, what's called a physiological sigh, and this calms your nervous system. And you shouldn't be too stressed when you wake up in the morning, but this is something that you could do throughout the day and that I talk about in several of my programs actually. But one randomized trial showed that 5 minutes of daily breath work beat an equal length mindfulness session for mood, and it lowered arousal, or lowered the stress response. And a physiological sigh is when you exhale longer than you inhale. And I recommend doing this throughout the day. When you're standing in line, I do this in the car when I'm stopped at a stoplight. It's like my trigger to do that because we automatically relax when we exhale. And so focus always on a longer exhale because we also tend to hold our breaths throughout the day and when we're staring at screens. So moving on, 3 before screens idea. You could read a few pages, and this is read a real book. It could be a Kindle. It could be listening to an audiobook. It could be reading a physical book, but not something online. And when I say a Kindle would be, like I have a Kindle, the Paperwhite, so it's not even connected to the internet. But, a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time to read. I'd like to read more. Well, this is, just it could be a few pages. You could say, I'm going to read 1 page a day, 5 pages a day. I wouldn't make a goal with chapters because some book chapters are really long. But this is feeding your brain something you chose, not an algorithm's choice. You could also pray or do devotions. I have a couple of friends that pray every morning. One prays with her husband and does devotions, and I think that's really a beautiful practice. And it could just be setting an intention for the day, but that could be one of your activities before the screen. And you could connect with a micro moment. So you could have a longer hug with your person or your child. You could, I think it is, if it's over like 20 seconds, affectionate touch that it can blunt cortisol responses to stress. And if you have a dog or a cat nearby, petting animals is linked to lower blood pressure and stress hormones. And that's just a great way to start the day as well. And in my TEDx, The Relentless Pursuit of More, I talked about when my husband would get up, he gets up like 3 hours after I do, sometimes even longer than that, because he goes to bed really late. And so I've been up for a while, and I'm always like on fire in the morning in the middle of working on something. And he wakes up and he, pads in his little sleepy face. And I would kind of give him this really sad, pitiful hug because I was in the middle of stuff and I felt like, and I'd like stop and hug him. It was like a half hug. And a few years ago, I realized what I was doing. And so now it is a very intentional hug because I love my husband. It was like, why, how many people would be so happy that their spouse just wants to hug them in the morning? I mean, come on, Marcey. And so it really changed how I viewed that morning time with my husband. But this could be with your child as well, or just, sitting with them and having breakfast. Now, for those of you who wear devices like an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or a Fitbit, and I have an Apple Watch. I don't wear it to bed, but I do wear an Oura Ring. I was an early adopter. I don't even know how long I've had it. This is my 4th one. But if you love looking at your sleep data, good. Just don't let it run you. And there's actually a term for obsessively chasing perfect tracker scores, and it can worsen your sleep, and it's called orthosomnia. And sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel good. And then you look at your tracking and it's like, I didn't sleep well. I didn't get enough deep sleep or something. I was like, oh no. And then you're like, oh, I'm tired today. Like you actually, you're telling people, oh, I didn't sleep well last night when you thought that you did. So they're good, but think about them more for trends and not single nights to decide your load. I used to check mine first thing in the morning, and now I'll often wait until like later in the day to kind of see like, do I feel tired or not? And I look more for trends on, do I need to take it easy? Like, because mine will also tell me my HRV and things like that. And when you think about screens in bed, now this is at nighttime, but there was research on 45,000 students, and they found that each hour of screen time after getting in bed was associated with a 59% higher risk of insomnia and 24 fewer minutes of sleep. So if you're tired when you wake up, that is yet another reason to keep your phones parked away from the pillow. So think about 3 things that I do for myself before I hit the screens. And I'll give you a few more ideas. Maybe 5 minutes of mobility work for, your hips, your spine, your shoulders. You could foam roll your quads and your glutes. Maybe 10 slow breaths of exhale-focused breathing. Or you go outside and you do 1 lap around the neighborhood or 1 block with no phone. You do your gratitude trifecta, just 3 lines. Maybe takes you a minute. Devotional or pages, that's 1 chapter, 5 pages of a real book. You could have a hug or pet time, 20-second partner hug, or 2 minutes with a dog. You could assemble your protein forward breakfast so that you're starting your day with a healthy meal. You could sit and have your coffee and just enjoy your coffee before you go to a screen. So what do I do? Well, I'm pretty routinized in the morning, and my phone is always in airplane mode. And the first thing I do actually is pick up my phone and turn it on, and I go to my security alarm app and I turn off the house alarm. And this I have to do because I will forget, and I will walk out the door to, go for a run or a walk or jump rope, and the alarm will, start going beep, 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 and then I have to run and turn it off. So I do have to do that first thing. And then I go to the bathroom, and then I put on my clothes and I work out for 45 to 60 minutes every day. Nothing changes that. And I do use apps on my phone to work out. I use the cross rope, jump rope app. And I have some fitness apps that I use, but I'm not looking at any text messages, Telegram, WhatsApp, nothing like that. I don't have any news apps. I don't have any social media apps on my phone. So it is just functional for my workout, which is for me. And then I do some form of breath work, meditation, either inside or outside of, I have an infrared sauna. And depending on what my schedule is that day, I may use it in the morning or I may use it after work. And then after that, I will do my 3 gratitudes and how I'll make today great in my playbook. And then I make my coffee. And then sometimes I make my breakfast. Sometimes I have coffee and wait about an hour. And then I go to my computer. Well, sometimes I take a shower in there. Sometimes I wait a little bit until after breakfast, but I might take a shower, get ready for the day. But then I go to my computer. So all that stuff, my agenda for me, for my health, for my well-being. But I still don't go to my inbox. I do at least one top task before I ever open email. And I don't look at email before 9 a.m. So I use inbox pause, and I don't even see my emails until it populates at 9 a.m. And this protects my magic time. And it usually gives me about, I would say, an hour. I mean, I'm usually working anywhere between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. It just depends on what time I wake up. Or I say 7 and 8 o'clock, I'm usually waking up. Or I'm usually ready for to work because I get up on average around 5:30. So, this really protects my magic time, and it definitely boosts my focus and has a very positive effect. So 3 before screens. If 3 feels like a leap for you, start with one thing for yourself before screens for a week. And then maybe it's 2, and then maybe it's 3, but keep it yours and make it something that's repeatable. So pick your 3, write them down tonight, or pick your 1, and try them tomorrow. And see what changes first. Your mood, your focus, or just your mornings. Thanks for listening to the Health Powered Productivity Podcast. Show notes link to every tool and takeaway. If you got value, subscribe, leave a review, and pass it along to your team. For more bite-sized tools and ways to work with Rader Co., whether through consulting, coaching, or speaking, visit helloraderco.com.